This is a video to show our animals that were killed. Pretty much every creature in these pictures were killed within the last 2 years by the Wards and the Johns at 1501 North Harmon Road. The Legres and the Hybels, but primarily the Johns and the Wards. They're the ones who want our property. They cannot expand in any other direction. One side of their property is street frontage. The other side is government land. The other two borders of their property is our property. And they've been defrauding, real estate fraud, fake documents, try to evict us off the property saying that we were tenants and we weren't paying rent. And they know the property. The previous owners no longer own the property, yet they still offer the money to try to take the property back from us, which they can't do. We've gone to court 5 times. The judges already told them, you can't resell something you've already sold. You've already given up your interest in the property. It's been sold. But because they're offering more money, so they've been trying to kill all of our animals. They've killed over 200 of our animals, which you're about to see the pictures of. And they've destroyed all the pens and structures on the property, even the barns and the sheds. And they're trying to make life so miserable here. I'll just say forget it and leave and give up our property. We're not giving up our property. For one, the property is owned by a family trust. There's 12 of us. You ain't getting through us or past us. But again, these racist white males, the property had sat vacant for 7 years before we purchased it. They were so determined they were going to get the property for next to nothing. They wasn't willing to pay the previous owner a decent price for it. And so when she sold it to us, because we did pay her a decent price for it, then all of a sudden they wanted to pay more money for it. But it was already sold. So these are the videos of the beautiful, the pictures of all the beautiful, beautiful creatures and structures that once were on the property that are no longer here, that they've torn down. And I'm going to go back to the small because we'll be here forever if we try to look at every photo. But this is our Prisa Canario. She was a Dumble Brundle, both silver and gold. She was a $16,000 dog in which they poisoned. This is Polar Bear, which was also poisoned. This is Baby again. The cat we still have, she's a Russian Mew. Don't know how to quite say it. This is inside our garage building because I'm staying in a trailer, but primarily what I was doing was only cooking and sleeping in the trailer. And I had the entire inside of the garage set up as rooms, and the boxes were the walls between the rooms from my house and my apartment, because there's a house that the septic tank is already in order. The house needs a new roof that we're going to put down and put other structures on the property. We had the money, the grants and stuff to do what we needed to do when we arrived. But with all their interference with the paperwork and keep trying to put additional people's names and crap on our title when our title is clear, we haven't done any of the development on that level of the property. And so the garage is much cooler than my trailer. Whatever temperature is outside, it's 20 degrees hotter in my trailer. So I would go in the garage building and spend my days. And again, I primarily only slept and cooked in the trailer. But you can see Baby, our Prisa Canario, kicked back by my furniture from my previous home. And that's our cat. She's alive. This is Polar Bear again. Polar Bear was killed June 11th or 12th of 2020, I believe. He was poisoned. And Artemis was poisoned 6 days prior on June 6th. I don't remember if it was 2019 or 2020 that they killed him. But this mess has been going on for years, and we've been reporting it to. When we first got the baby goats, they were bottle babies. And the only nipple we could find that would fit was a Manischewitz bottle. So that's my granddaughter holding the Manischewitz bottle with the goat's milk in it to feed the baby goats. And these were our first set of baby goats back in 2018, the end of 2018. And we ended up with a full herd of 15 goats. But these are pictures of her feeding the babies. And they were little cutie booties. Go back to where you were. And these are some of the structures on the property that were torn down, and the fencings from the pens. You hear the foul and evil air flying over. They're messing with my phone while I'm trying to record this. So that's why pictures are flipping upside down and it's not responding to my commands. And some of the pens and things that were built, they just need to mind their own business. But these are many of the pens. So the animals had ample space to run and play and roam. They had structures, housing structures that were built for shade. Everything, greenhouse structures, everything has been torn down and torn apart by these beasts who won't stay the hell off our property. But these are our goats. And then these are one of the back pens. We had multiple back pens, but I'm going to have to go the other direction with this in a minute. But to show you how all of this stuff is now torn down all over the ground. Let's speed up and get back to all of these things that we built. We worked hard on this property, clearing all the trash and debris and crap off of it. Now it's covered with debris and trash because the neighbors. That's my youngest son feeding one of the baby goats. And him with one of our dogs. But we had major structures for the animals. Pens within pens. And they all had houses and shade for both the cold and the heat. You see the gates wide open because he's allowed to run as much as he wanted to. This is Polar Bear before they killed him. But beautifully made. Well put together. They weren't just... There was nothing wrong with the structures. The structures weren't torn down because wind or anything natural. They were broken apart by people running their trucks and ATVs and things through them and actually broke the wood itself. We had to get all new panels to redo them. Here's some of our babies. They're all trying to get in the picture at the same time. But literally hundreds of animals were killed by these people. After these people moved in next door 2 years ago when they purchased the property, they just started killing them every day, 2 and 3 a day, just nonstop, determined that this Polar Bear, that they were going to destroy everything on our property until we just finally decided to give up and sell the property. Well, we're not going to give up. We're not going to sell the property. They're going to be held accountable for the deaths of all these animals, all of these beautiful livestock animals. This is across the street. This is my car. This is the neighbor across the street, Hybels. There's a black bull that he has that loves my granddaughter. And every time it sees her, it just calls to her, and it just loves my granddaughter. He fell in love with her. And them in the side of their different structures. That was before we put the roof on, so we put a tarp in that spot. And these are the neighbors' cattle. My granddaughter with 2 of our dogs, both of which are dead, were killed. Both of the beautiful Great Pyrenees, purebreds that are in this picture with my granddaughter, had been killed by the neighbors. That's our champion male when he was a puppy, me and him together. He's the father of 3 of our dogs from his champion bloodline. But to show you, and the shed in the background in this picture was torn down recently, about a week and a half ago. It looked like they ran a piece of farm equipment into it because the whole roof was bent in half and they just tore this apart. But they tore these pens apart close to 2 years ago. This entire pen with the inner pens for the dogs and the goats had been already destroyed. Here's more photos of the same pen and the dogs in the pen with the goats. But when I say that they've done massive destruction on our property, I mean massive destruction. The place looks like a war zone. They tore down all the pens. Only one shed is still standing. The other two have been torn to pieces. All of their our fire pit that we built in our whole area here was completely torn to pieces. Our front driveway area with the bigger pens, there's 3 pens, and all that's been torn down. This has been torn down entirely. This is another very large pen. We have a lot of Great Pyrenees. In the winter, the different pens and what the place looked like in the winter. And as you see, the weather was not a problem. It did not do any damage to the structures or the housing or anything. Oh, I was playing with a photo app with one of my dogs, one of the puppies. It was cold outside. I had nothing better to do with myself. So I was playing with him with photo apps. More of our goats and animals that we no longer have. They killed our entire herd. So males, females, pregnant females, some of the babies when they were bottle babies, and we're inside the garage with them. We had the whole back section of the garage, as you see, set up for animals. When the weather got really bad or cold, we'd bring them inside, or when we had little babies during winter months or colder months, we'd keep them inside until it warmed up a bit before we brought them out. But there's the whole inner pen in the back side of the garage where the babies are, or where they were, and where we kept them until they were old enough to have outside. But when we brought the animals outside, they were all killed. Within the last 2 years, the 2 years since the Johns and the Wards bought the property next door. Now, they were harassing us prior to that. They were using the Allegre's property to access our property because we share a border, and that whole fence on that border was torn down and the barbed wire removed. So we have to replace 5 strands, 660 feet of barbed wire, and all the posts, which is 48 posts, that they use some type of heavy equipment to break the post at the base. So all that has to be replaced. So they've been coming in and out of our property from the Allegre's, and then when they bought the property that borders ours, when the woman died, which to me is questionable, then they just went on a rampage and just started killing everything. Every chicken, every goat, every duck, every goose, every quail, every grouse, our peacocks, our turkeys, everything, our pigs, everything. But these were all of our beautiful, healthy, beautiful creatures. There was nothing wrong with anybody. Nobody died of natural causes. This is all evil, ugly nastiness because they're so hellbound and determined. And he spent a small fortune on that piece of property because they were so sure that they were going to be able to take this property with their good old boys lying in court and fake documents. But I had our documents. Our documents were in order. They had all been checked by attorneys, both California and Nevada attorneys, 3 of them, before we purchased the property. Everything was in order. So for them to try to go back and try to take the property and try to make up all these fake excuses. This is the area beside my trailer. All this has been torn down, completely destroyed, the cat tree and the cat house and all the stuff that we had. That's Polar Bear in the background. That's Polar Bear underneath the trailer. That was his second favorite spot. But everything that they could destroy, every false document, fake stuff, because they've got people in city government who are falsifying records and helping them. They took all of our tax money that we paid in taxes and completely deleted it off records. Like we don't have our stamped, signed copies of our receipts, and then seized the property. And they tried to take the property that way. I mean, it's been one thing after another. It's all fraud. we've got major lawsuits against the county offices here for the stuff that they've been pulling. And you can see how nice the big back pens were. And they had multiple pens inside the pen. And the goats and the dogs. So I could separate the goats from the dogs, because sometimes the dogs get tired of the goats. And sometimes the goats get tired of the dogs. So we would have it to where, and then on Shabbat, nobody works, not the dogs, not anybody. So I would completely move the goats out of this section and let the dogs have full run where they could all play together, because they're all family. And just have their family time together without the goats in the way. And I'd move the goats to another pen. But this big pen had multiple. And the big pen was 120 feet in length, 60 feet in depth. And it had multiple inner pens inside. But we could open up all the doors where they could just run through the whole thing. And that took 6 months to build, mainly because we had to clear the ground of debris and dig up all the way by the roots all the bushes and things that were growing, so that we didn't have to keep redoing this every year or every so often. It was a situation where one time for all time, you know, just do it right the first time and you don't have to do it again. So all these areas were full of bushes. We had to dig up the roots so they wouldn't come back and all that nonsense. And then put sand down as the first level before we put mulch over top of it, so it would be absorbent. And you can see the goats running around having a good, the dogs having a good time in the pen. We put the goats out so the dogs can have their playtime. Annie and Rufus are over by me. Red's just looking at these two, act a fool, playing. Aurora's playing with Artemis. But all of our beautiful exotic birds. And a lot of the birds that we had were endangered species. And this is what each dog's pen looked like. It was 8 feet in width and 12 feet in length, each pen. So each dog had its own kennel, which was 8 by 12. And these are big dogs. These dogs are 140 to 160 pounds. He was about 160. Most of them were closer to 120 pounds. But he was an older boy, so he was all filled out. And you can see his favorite turkey is in his pen with him. Those two were inseparable. That was his buddy. And here's one of the other dogs in her pen. This was our Prisa Canario. And again, every dog had a pen that was 8 feet in width and 12 feet in length. All of the pens have been torn down now. It's Aurora. She was just recently killed last week. That's her inside my trailer with me, sleeping by the fireplace, so it was winter. They just killed her. She hasn't even been, her body hasn't been disposed of yet. She just was killed. She was killed and the female Pyrenees was killed. And our puppies were champions, and they were constantly trying to steal our dogs and mess with our dogs. And this is some of our beautiful, beautiful pups. And again, the pens with the goats, all the dogs were completely livestock trained. This is Artemis. They killed him. He was our champion. My big, beautiful boy. Champion bloodlines and all his papers. This dog right here is a Neapolitan Mastiff. This is a $16,000 dog. They also poisoned and killed her. This is my son with one of the puppies that he ended up taking home with him. And the large big back pen. And you can see how deep the pen is and how wide it is. Again, this is 120 feet by 160. And you hear the fallow air over me. They're always interfering. So if you see the screen start jumping or doing weird stuff while I'm trying to scroll, It's because they're back there. And you can see all the back pens that are all inside this one giant pen. And it was 120 feet by 60 feet. And this pen has been completely destroyed. Every pen, all the housing, all the birds. And we had exotic birds. We had endangered species of birds. We don't eat our animals. So we were raising them to sell the eggs or for brooding or and all these beautiful creatures. Our property is called Rising Phoenix Ranch. We had actual phoenix birds. That's one of them over there. And these are the Asian chickens that we had. But we also had several endangered species. You can see a good shot of how big the pen is in the winter. That has the multiple pens inside, the 120 by 60. And we had 2 really large pens. Then we had a 30 by 30. And we hatched all the quails and all the exotic birds from eggs. And we have pictures of them actually hatching from the eggs and them in all their little houses. And these are the pictures of the different birds, breeds that we had. And we had some beautiful exotic birds and geese and turkeys and chickens. And they weren't happy. You see that these were 1-day-old hatchlings, all in the brooders. And so I raised these babies. I was the only mama these creatures knew. And these are all exotic breeds, all very expensive exotic breed birds. They have killed over 250, and we're still counting because we're doing an inventory list. And these are all of our beautiful babies with all their beautiful colors. Their feathers alone would sell for a small fortune. Between their eggs, their offspring, and their feathers, we weren't raising any of those animals to be eaten. And you see me holding 1-day-olds in my hand. I have a picture or a video of eggs hatching while they're sitting in my hand. And so all the animals were bonded to me. I was mama. And there's one of our brooders. There's all of our eggs that I was bringing in and putting in our incubators and hatching from all our different exotic birds. The birth of some of our baby goats when they were born. And I've got 6 brooders. I don't know if you can see. Little heads popping out of the eggs, watching them hatch. This is a video, but I'm not going to play the video of watching the babies hatch. And then what some of the birds look like once they were hatched in their cages. Now all the cages are just sitting empty on the property. And me holding some of the babies. And again, we had rare breeds and exotic breeds, super expensive birds. Beautiful, beautiful creatures. Look at this thing. If I can get the picture to get any bigger. Beautiful, beautiful creatures. This one was an endangered species, and we had a couple of them. They were all males. We were trying to get a hold of a female so that we could use them for breeding. And our geese. And these people, every time I left the property, would come on the property and kill them. We would catch them leaving the properties when we're coming home, going back to their property. And sometimes in the middle of the night, we have multiple witnesses who have caught them leaving and coming and going, illegally trespassing on our property. And there's no accident. We are 660 feet in the middle of our property. There's no accidental, oops, I'm on your property stuff. They were cutting our fences coming through. They put a gate between our property and theirs. They tore down entire 660-foot sections of fencing. There's no oops about any of this stuff. This is all group effort, which is the RICO law. This is all intentional, trying to force us to give up our property by killing all of our creatures and destroying all of our structures on our property. All these beautiful exotic birds. I raised every last one of these babies by hand. They took a pellet gun and shot these all with BB guns. And we have filed so many sheriff's reports, it's ridiculous. And a lot of these are videos. I'm just not playing the video. I'm just showing the front picture and clip to show you how nice their homes and pens are. Here's them actually hatching out of the eggs. You can see, but I'm not going to play the actual videos. We'd be here all day. I'm an animal mommy, so I got bazillion pictures of my creatures and their pens. The foul and naval air flying over is interfering, or did something intentional. They constantly are interfering with our Wi-Fi connections and our internet. So now the pictures aren't pulling up the rest of the pictures. These people really need to get a life and stop bothering us. And again, they're part of this. And that all falls into the RICO Act. These are one-day-old hatches. All this nonsense that these people are pulling. But you've seen enough. I don't have to show you all of them. But I really wanted you to see more of the pictures of just how beautiful these creatures were. Some of our turkeys. And again, these animals were completely friendly. You could walk right up to them and pick them up because they were hand-fed and hand-raised by me. But that was the downside because it made it easy for these beasts, that was Charlie, to be killed. But beautiful, beautiful, exotic creatures. Look at these babies. All hand-raised, all hand, super, super friendly creatures because, again, they didn't know anything but love, and they should have been safe in their own homes and in their own beds, not to have their necks broken and being stabbed and shot, because that's what they did to the animals. Stabbed them, shot them, broke their necks, brutalized them in their own homes, in their own beds where they should have been safe. And the foul and naval air is still hovering over, interfering with me. They're so busy trying to look at what's on my phone, they're not letting me see what's on my phone, and they're constantly bothering me and harassing me. And they're still hovering over when they need to go about their own damn businesses and leave me alone. But our beautiful babies. These were our Polish ones. And again, all hand-raised. Our millefleurs. Our goats. But they're interfering, so I'm going to cut it short because we've got the foul and naval air. Every time I turn one of my devices on, within a few minutes, they're hovering over, harassing. So we're going to cut it short. But to show, they have killed hundreds. We've already counted 250 animals, and we're still counting that they have killed of our livestock animals in our herds, and destroyed all the structures and buildings and things as well. And this is the neighbors, the Johns, the Wards, the Hybels, and the Allegres. They're all in cahoots. And the foul and naval air, certain people with that are all part of this group of good old boys. And this has been a group effort on all of their parts. And all of them need to be prosecuted, and prosecuted by the RICO law. Because they think if they tag team and bully and team up, that they're going to get away with it and cover for one another. That's what the whole purpose of the RICO law is for. This is a group effort. It's organized crime. And Zach Bunyard from City Planning, he's a part of all this too. And he's also part of the rodeo team that Allegre's son and Hybel's son and Ward and the Johns are all a part of. So they have all business ties and business endeavors, and they're trying to put a rodeo next door to us. And they can't because they need our property to do it. And so they have made all these plans for a business venture involving property they don't own and have no legal right to. So they have been trying to fraud documents and falsify records and everything for the last 2 years, trying to find ways to get the property from us. And it didn't succeed in any of the court hearings because we had all of our property, our records, and our records were in order. And so they've been killing all of our animals and destroying everything in the property and trying to make life so miserable that we just go, forget it. We're going to just let you have the property. No, that's never going to happen. What's going to happen is all of you are going to be looking at prison terms because we're documenting everything you do. We have multiple witnesses. I don't care if you got the sheriff department in your pocket. We've got enough video and witnesses and evidence to sue the living shit out of you guys in federal court and have charges brought against these people. We're not playing games. I don't care whatever bad behavior they're used to getting away with. Fallon is still part of the United States and therefore subject to the laws of the United States. Bottom line. And everybody involved with this, everybody who's been doing all this nastiness and ugliness, you will be held accountable to the fullest extent of every law available. I assure you that is going to happen.